Dos y tres. Hi everyone, my name is Camila Galvis and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Luis Betancourt. Since I met Luis, I have been so impressed with his knowledge in digital marketing. He's a consultant, advisor, and speaker. Luis has worked with a wide range of companies, helping them unlock the full potential of digital tools and strategies, thinking to grow the businesses and brands. Thank you, Luis, so much for being here.
Thank you for the invite. I'm always grateful for these spaces and glad to share around digital marketing.
Okay, what's so existing about having Luis today is that he has been in the industry for over 20 years. So today I would love to dive deep into how marketing has evolved during that time and what it really takes to grow a brand in today's world. I would also love to talk about with you, Luis, the importance of data and adaptability, especially now that AI and technology have become a necessity and not just a nice to have. Let's start there. How would you describe the shift in the role of marketing over the last 20 years?
I think it's changed a lot basically because the channels have been evolving basically not since the beginning, but I started when search engines were like exploding. When I started on digital marketing, Google was on the early days. It was already known, but it was like on the early days. I joined the industry when Google Ads was basically starting. But then I saw social media getting born and all the other paid ads in social media also becoming part of the industry, influencer marketing, and so other channels. So basically, we as digital marketings have been forced to learn on the go about all these new channels, and we have had to adapt our strategies to all these different new channels that have appeared, and some have even disappeared. There's channels that does not exist anymore. So we've been always trying to adapt. So I will say that one of the main differences is that we were used to traditional channels without metrics, without measurement, without proper measurement, without being able to really calculate ROI. And now with digital marketing and all these new set of channels, I will say that we have great tools to measure. And we've been focusing on performance, on tracking, and understanding the real impact of all these strategies on the business. And for me, that's like the main difference.
Okay, good. And how will you explain the difference between traditional marketing strategies and growth focused marketing?
That's also important. That's an somehow new concept that has arrived in the last a little bit more than a decade. The concept of growth marketing differs from digital marketing in the sense that it includes more areas of the company. When we talk about digital marketing, we traditionally are focusing especially on acquisition. How do we acquire new customers? When we are focusing on growth, we are focusing on acquisition, activation, retention, and monetization. So we don't only focus on acquiring it, but we also think about how do we retain them, how do we monetize, and that implies that we need to get involved with the product. It's really hard for a growth marketer to work without being involved in the product, in development, in features, in metrics. So I think it requires a wider range of skills that we as digital marketing have been working on acquiring on the last decade.
Okay, so good. You mean that when we think about growth marketing, is like you have to think about all the process in the company, just not just marketing.
Definitely. And that's one of the key differences. And it's one of the, at the same time, challenges of the growth marketers. But at the same time, at least for me, it's what makes it so interesting. That you need to know about product, you need to know about, like, deeply know about metrics, you need to run about know about experiments, but you also need to know the basic about all the digital marketing channels, but you also need to learn about technology and APIs and implementations and integrations. And it's like a wide range of tools that you need to at least know about, so you can go deep. And at the end, we end up impacting most of the areas of the business, as you mentioned. Definitely.
Okay, good. At what point in your career did you start seeing that companies and marketers were shifting their focus to grow marketing as the main way to think and working?
I think the first time that I heard the word was around 2010, when it was first introduced as a concept. And it was funny somehow because I started as a programmer. I was a web developer first for the first years of my professional career. And then I shift into SEO, search engine optimization, but I was always working from the technical part. So I was developing interfaces and features, focusing on SEO from this technical part. So I always felt like trapped in the middle of marketing and programming, and I was like in the middle of those two words that are usually very unconnected. I always say that there's like a black hole in the middle where everything got lost. And when I heard about this new concept, growth marketing, I finally found something that defined me, because I was in the middle of two. But unfortunately, at the beginning, the concept was, I think, took by many companies as a trend, as a just like a fancy word. And then the growth hacking, which was the first concept, was used for everything. So basically, growth hacking became like a new sexy way of referring to digital marketing. And most of the digital marketers just changed their hat and they started being a growth hacker, which was not the real meaning of the concept. It definitely needs getting into the product, and it's difficult to work in growth if you don't know about technology, if you don't know about the basics of programming and integrations. So for some years I kind of forgot about the concept, and I think in the last, I would say, maybe 5 years, probably after the pandemic, the new concept, which is growth without the hacking, kind of re-emerged with a clear view of what it really is. I think the growth marketing has been used mostly on startups, and the startup ecosystem is really working on the true or real nature of the concept, like, as I mentioned, focusing on acquisition, activation, retention, and monetization. And I think it's especially on startups that this is useful, because most of the models, not all of them, has either subscriptions or other business model that implies recurrency, recurrent customers, which I think it's important part of growth. It's hard to fully deploy a growth strategy if you don't retain your customers. If you only sell them once, it's complicated to really implement a growth strategy. That's going to be pretty much acquisition. So I think in startups is where you can deploy a complete growth strategy, and that's why I think it started to grow on them. But now most companies every day are learning about it and implementing on their business models. There's a lot of traditional companies, as for example some insurances, that they have recurrency and they have recurrent customers every year, and they can definitely apply growth strategy. So it is possible to apply the concept on traditional companies as in startups, but nowadays it's mostly known in the startup world.
Okay, so interesting. And for someone coming from a traditional marketing background, for example, insurance companies, what steps would you recommend to become more competitive in the growth space?
Okay, so I will say that a first important step is on data, on measurement. But an important part of growth marketing marketer is running experiments, and you need to learn about data, and you need to learn about analytics tools, and you need to learn how to run an experiment, how to run an A/B test, so you can start thinking on experiment mindset. And you should be starting to run experiments all the time, experiments on landing pages, on campaigns, on ads, on everything you're working on. You need to be running experiments pretty much all the time. Then when you're familiar with data and you can run your experiments and you're able to measure and understanding what was the hypothesis of your experiment that you wanted to try, and then what's the conclusion, or what's the result of your experiment, and how that impacts your business model or your product or your communication, then I will say that a next step will be to get familiar with technology. You need to get familiar with. I wouldn't say necessarily learn to code. You don't necessarily need to become a programmer, but you need at least some familiarity with integration tools. I will definitely recommend what we nowadays call no code. There's platforms like Zapier, like Make, like No8n, like there's a lot of integrators nowadays that allows you to create some prototypes and like iterate easily with technology without being a programmer. Platforms like WordPress, platforms like Shopify in case of e-commerce. All these platforms allows you to like quickly try and experiment without being a programmer. And having such a familiarity with technology is going to be very important. Those two areas, basically, assuming that the marketing already has familiarity with the, like, let's call it traditional digital marketing strategies with search engines, SEO and SEM, social media, organic and paid, email marketing. In Latin America is very important, WhatsApp marketing, or in the States, SMS marketing, getting familiar with communities and PR, working with media, with influencers, with content generators, like the whole digital marketing channels is very important to at least understand how they work, so you can then like properly craft a complete and 360 growth strategy.
Okay, good. Okay, have you seen situations where companies fail at implementing growth marketing strategy? And why
Definitely.
do you think that happened?
A lot. I think at the beginning, the first failure was due to the fact that they did not even understand the concept. So most companies, or I don't know if most, but a lot of companies just changed their titles, and they had someone on digital marketing, and then one day that person was the growth marketer. And some companies even change the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer, to CGO, Chief Growth Officer. But most of the cases without even understanding the real implications of the change. It's not just a name. You really need to change the way you do the things. So I would say the first error was trying to just adapt a name. And the second one is that you really need a shift on your mindset. Growth as I was mentioning, depends heavily on experiments. And you need to experiment fast and you need to experiment a lot. You cannot pretend to apply growth marketing if you run an experiment every month or every 2 months. You need to be experimenting a lot. Like every week, you should be running several experiments at the same time in parallel so you can learn as fast as you need to take decisions and move your company to the front. So this needs a complete change on how the companies work. And the challenge here is that you don't only need that change on the growth marketing team, you need to keep the pace from the product teams, from sales teams, from
Mm.
administrative teams. You need to change the whole company into a growth mindset if you really want to go on the speed that these type of processes need. That's actually one of the, I don't know, I'm somehow optimistic, but I think at some point, most companies, not only startups, should be implementing and moving into growth. And that's going to be useful because every company, even if they are not startups, they can take advantage of this mindset, I would say.
Okay. You mean that all the company have to think and like breed growth marketing if the strategy like for the success of the strategy.
I will say so. Maybe there's some companies, for as I was mentioning, if you don't have a recurrent model, for example, if you sell something that it's one-time purchase, maybe you won't be able to implement all the retention acquisitions, but maybe you can think on monetization and you can end up creating different revenue streams. And at some point, maybe you find out that you can actually implement a recurring model. Maybe you can jump from one of your pricing models, you can jump into a subscription model, which I think several industries are moving into subscriptions. As you've seen,
Mhm.
you can now buy a Tesla car and then you can buy a subscription. And the subscription depends on the features that you want on your car. And if you change your subscription to a higher tire, you will get more features on your car. So I will say that most industries are trying to move into these recurring models basically because those are usually more predictable. You can like see on your future your revenue and you stop thinking on your sales milestone for the month and then you start thinking on the future growth. It's not like a short-term view, it allows you to think more in the future. So definitely most companies I will think and say and recommend should be moving into growth strategies.
You know, in your experience and in all the things that in all the companies that you work with this concept, do you have like one of them that you can show us as an example? And what do you do there?
Yeah, definitely. There's one company that I've been working with, I will say, for the last almost 10 years. They were a traditional skin care, like aesthetic center here
Mhm.
in Bogota, and they were very traditional. All their processes were paper based, and they had uh, like the traditional word of mouth acquisition. We started working, and the first thing that we transformed was acquisition. We started running Google Ads campaigns, and they started acquiring their clients from Google using basically Google Ads. But then they started developing also SEO on their website, and they started to also acquire clients from SEO organic from Google. And it was so interesting with them that we started getting into the company. We started transforming also the way their operations worked. So they started leaving paper forms and moving into digital forms, and we implement CRM where they were able to maintain all their relations with their clients. And it was so nice the transformation they started to experiment, that at some point they decided to move into a subscription model, and they started trying and testing a new subscription. Someone will basically pay a fee, a monthly fee, and that will allow patients to take as many treatments as they wanted. But then it didn't completely work, so they changed the model again into an e-commerce, and they ended up having an e-commerce but focused on promotions and discounts. And they ended up understanding that they have some people and some machines on the company available, and it ended up being model of how busy can they get their people and their machines. So, for example, just to give you an idea, they run like there's a lot of data behind this, but they can understand and predict how busy a person and a machine will be for the next weeks. And when they detect the a person or a machine is going to have some empty space on their agendas, they launch a promo, and that will allows them to bring customers for that specific person and that specific machine. So it at the end it's a matter of getting everyone busy, and that methodology has allowed them to offer prices that are way lower than the average on the market. So it's kind of what used to be Groupon, but specialized on aesthetic and skin care. So it's been very interesting because they have changed from traditional like brick and mortar shop, traditional services, aesthetical services, to almost a startup. They nowadays conceive themselves and they think and they move as a startup.
No, nice example, because when we think about that, about growth marketing, we think that new companies, but it looks like traditional companies and all companies can use this kind of strategies to grow their business, and of course to reinvent their business.
Yeah,
Very nice.
definitely. That's
And
the nicest part of working on growth, that you see how you end up changing their mindset, not only the way they do things.
okay, very nice, very interesting. And if we now think about the future, do you do you see marketing continuing to emerge with other functions like sales, product, or data in the coming years?
Definitely. Basically, the positioning on and growth, the positioning and like the growth of the growth marketing in the companies have definitely integrated marketing and sales and operations and even administrative people. And I think it's gonna keep getting even more involved. Nowadays, it's really hard, and I think the most complicated cases that I usually find is where companies where, for example, marketing and sales are completely separate and they don't talk to each other, and most cases they actually hate each other. So basically, the usual struggle is when you ask sales, we are not selling more because marketing is not generating good leads. And when you go to marketing, they are not selling more because sales is not properly closing the leads that they are generating. So with the time, all these areas need to be integrated. They need to work as a machine. They need to understand that they are part of the same company, that they need to support each other and start or stop looking at each other as enemies and start working as what they naturally need to be, as part of the same system. So definitely it's gonna keep integrating even more.
Yes. Um, for the other part, I want to know what emerging trends or technologies do you believe will reshape marketing in the next 3 or 5 years?
I would say every day, every second, AI is definitely that emerging. I don't know if emerging, but that trend. since the moment that ChatGPT arrived a few years ago, this has been crazy. And we see these companies delivering new features, new models, new functionalities every week. Um, Last week, I think it was, we had the Google I/O, this very important event in
Mhm.
San Francisco in Mountain View, where Google unveils their new approaches, and pretty much the event was focused on how AI is gonna keep, because they've been doing the same, but it's gonna keep merging into all their products. And especially they had another event on Tuesday or Wednesday focused on marketing, where they unveil how AI, in their case Gemini, is getting even more integrated with Google Ads, with Google Analytics, and Meta is doing the same. So apparently, with this new concept of the agentic AI, they want to offer us agents, but not the typical chatbot, but agents that can actually implement. Agents that can take your website, can go inside, and can install a tracking code, or set up a campaign, or make a change on your campaign. So AI is moving from something like an advisor to something more like an implementing arm. And it's very promising and interesting to see how this is going to shape the way digital marketing works, especially for agencies, because I think that's the real challenge. Actually, Mark Zuckerberg said in a video, like I think it was like 2 weeks ago, that in his future agencies will tend to disappear, because all these platforms will be so easy to self-implement that in theory you wouldn't need an agency for it. So yeah, I think AI is getting into everything we do in digital marketing.
Oh my God. It's crazy when you see that AI now is in everywhere. It's everywhere and in everything that we live
Yeah, it's
daily, no?
actually hard to think sometimes. It's hard to do some things the old way. When, for example, ChatGPT is not available, or the server is down or something, and you
Mhm.
need to do something, it's like, oh my God, I need ChatGPT. But you knew how to do this before. Yeah, but now we use it to do it with AI.
Yes,
It's kind of hard. Yeah.
yes, it's crazy. It's crazy that when you think your day, you interact a lot with AI, like not just with ChatGPT, but it's with a lot of tools that that have or include AI in their systems. Is crazy, but now is this is not it is the present, but the future. Like it will be crazy with this.
Absolutely. I think it's not even it's the present. Yeah, as you said, it's changing every minute. We can end this call, and there's could be a new features that change it all, as easy as that.
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy, but it's our reality now. Okay,
Definitely.
Luis, just to finish our interview, first, thank you very much for your time. But I want, like, if you can give us a final message, would like you want to share with marketers who are just starting out or are currently navigating a career transition. What is this message that you can give them?
I will say that it's probably the best idea in order to learn and get experience, to have a project, to have their own project. I will try to find something that involves recurrency, that involves recurrent clients, maybe a subscription model, or maybe a info product that involves monthly payment, or something on their own, that they can experiment and play around and learn how to do things, and something that they don't need anyone else to make decisions, something that they can play around, even if it's only for learning purposes or getting experience. But maybe if everything goes as expected, maybe they end up doing some real and nice business out of it. And I would say that's the best idea in order to learn and get experience. And it's, if at some point you're looking into an opportunity in growth, it's going to be very useful to show that you have something you've been playing around, that you can show your numbers, that you can open up and share with that potential employer what you've been doing and what you've been playing around. So that would be definitely my recommendation.
Okay, Luis, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for all your knowledge, the experience that you share with us. Thank you.
It's always a pleasure and hope it helps. And if one person gets something useful and can implement something, that will be very happy for me.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.